how to pack your calendars, mindset, cold calling scripts, things of that nature. Oh, we're getting in more people into the call. Awesome. It's great.
Yeah.
Justus, the GTM lead at Deel. So he's the go-to guy to talk about.
Yeah, been doing it for a little bit. So yeah, happy to answer any questions or cover anything in specific. At Deel, we book anywhere from like 12 to 20 meetings a month for HR for international teams. So it's going to be a payroll for people working with contractors internationally, whether that be, it's mostly remote roles. It's not really like construction roles or high liability workers comp type roles. It's typically white collar, translation, call centers, creative work. Worked with Nike, Coinbase, Reddit on the enterprise side. I'm on SMB, so I'm regularly calling businesses between 1 and 200 employees. That's like my sweet spot. And setting up entities for people in foreign countries, onboarding them with contractors so that they don't have to pay everything through wire transfer fees or pay everything on a company credit card or do a bunch of different stuff depending on what country they are, hire a local lawyer, all that kind of headache kind of stuff. Primarily use LinkedIn and cold calling to book those. Email is not my favorite, so I'm kind of biased against that, but it's kind of like a quick spiel.
What's your favorite channel for prospecting?
Prospecting, definitely. There's nothing better than your company Salesforce. If you are established at a company, I'm always just looking in Salesforce at different stuff that's popping up. Best ones are people that have shown interest in the past. Doesn't matter how long. I always spend most of my time in the morning. I call at least 20 to maybe 10 to 20 people who have expressed interest in Deel in the past and just fell off, closed lost opportunities. So that's my favorite. If I'm going after brand new accounts, I'm always looking in new LinkedIn groups. So HR LinkedIn groups, AI LinkedIn groups, remote work LinkedIn groups. I really got into this guy, Peter Levels. He wrote this book called Make. It's about bootstrapping startups. And I followed him on Twitter and just kind of got in with his following and making stuff. And I really like making apps too, just on my spare time. So like getting involved with those communities, you really have opportunities pop up left and right where people are like, oh, this hobby project is kind of taking off. I want to maybe move things forward or maybe try to get funding or be more organized. And I'm like, all right, meet with us at Deel. We'd be happy to help you out or refer you to talent partners or something like that.
Is that like
Levels.io, exactly.
Okay,
Peter Levels.
I'm familiar with them. So that's interesting. You go after LinkedIn groups to prop up new business. So when you're in LinkedIn, are you trying to create an image of yourself as being an expert in that group on HR, posting regularly, and then setting up calls with people who engage with your posts? Or how do you do it?
For the most part, if it's like the startup, the window in Twitter where people are just making a bunch of AI startups, like Replit and stuff like that, if it's like those guys, I'm pretty much just commenting like, wow, this is so sick. Or like, I'm going to try to build something like this. Or like, holy cow, what did you use? Because somebody just made an iOS app completely using Cursor and Replit, and they did it in like 3 days. And I'm just like freaking out. Like, I'm genuinely just interested in that stuff. So I will just go down the rabbit hole and try to ask them questions or get time with them or comment on stuff. And then eventually they'll ask me what I do. I'll be like, I could be a resource whenever you need. But from the most part, I feel like prospecting best stems from curiosity. So like, what are you genuinely trying to, if I go into an HR group and I'm just kind of like, I am an expert in HR. I've been in HR for a year and a half, and it's all in sales. So it's like, I'm not going to pretend to be something I'm not, but I have been building apps for a decent amount of time, and I have been able to write software for a couple of years. So it's like those companies in those areas, I feel like are just best for staying in your lane. I feel like you find the best prospecting, just like being excited and curious about people. And I do that mostly on LinkedIn, sometimes on Discord, sometimes on Twitter, stuff like that.
But you'd say like your main channel is LinkedIn groups? Is
Definitely
where you get the best deals from. I feel like that's a relatively untouched prospecting channel for a lot of folks. A lot of people I don't think, go on LinkedIn groups to find their customers. That's awesome though, that you're seeing success there.
Oh yeah, a lot of fun. And just contributing to stuff. I think LinkedIn rewards you for contributing to random articles and things. So I like doing that kind of stuff and getting random hits and visibility on my profile, because the LinkedIn profile definitely screams Deel a little bit more than anything else that I have out there, like Twitter or Discord.
That's awesome. And when you work at an organization like Deel, how do you guys manage at-scale messaging, right, versus personalization?
No, that's been huge, because a big part of the beginning processes here was there was a lot of nurturing going on. So basically people would just call accounts on a regular basis and just maintain ROE and then hit their quotas based on inbounds if they've been here long enough. So maybe they don't hit quota for the first 3 to 6 months that they're in the role, but then later they hit quota because they've been here for a long time and they just have so many accounts that they're reaching out to on a regular basis. And the whole org kind of turned away from that just because it's a bad look and you crush your domains. You will not be able to survive with a Google domain, especially with the new rules now, if you go through that strategy. So my kind of take on it is just to highly leverage cold calling. I'm always trying to add more people that have phone numbers, and I'm prioritizing people that have phone numbers. Even if it's a fantastic account and I really think they're interesting, maybe I'll send them a LinkedIn message, but if they don't have a phone number, they're probably slipping through the cracks. I'm probably going to forget about them just because that's the best way to establish a connection. There's nothing like an 8-minute phone call. There's no email that you're going to send. There's no LinkedIn message that you're going to send that's going to get more attention and leave more of an impact than an 8 to 10-minute phone call. And I typically, my phone calls are like being interested in their business. So that's like, I get to learn a little bit about them. They talk, and the more they talk, the more they trust you. And so it's just like, it's like a psychology thing for me. So that's why.
So are you setting up calls only with warm leads?
No, I'm typically calling people who, like, a lot of people have heard about Deel before. I would say probably 30 to 50% of the people that actually come and check out a demo again have already done the demo. And what does your script refinement process look like for cold calling? Yeah, I can definitely touch on that. But yeah, what was I going to say? Oh, there's a lot of people that haven't heard of Deel though, just because to them we're just ADP, Gusto, Oyster, globalization partners. We're all the same. We all do the same stuff. HR, everybody's bored with HR. They can send wire payments through Wise. They can just send manual wire payments through their bank. It's not really like, Deel's only been on the space for like 3 years, so I still feel like we're relatively new outside of tech culture. So have dealt with, for the most part, people who haven't heard of us, I feel like, on my cold calls. But I'd say probably 50% of my bookings that actually sit are like, oh yeah, I have heard a Deel, I've seen something, or I've demoed in the past, and yeah, I would like to check it out again because our contract's coming up or something like that. But as far as the script refinement process, that is typically, we have a tool called Nooks, which I'm pretty active about on LinkedIn. And in there, we're all sitting in a dialer floor. A lot of our sales people, we have a pretty large sales team, and I'd say anywhere from 5 to 10 people in a sales room at a time. And I'm listening to their calls, they're listening to my calls, and we're constantly bouncing ideas off of each other. So that's a lot what my script refinement looks like. Also, I feel like the more, when I listen to my own calls, I try to figure out what questions people just like wouldn't stop answering, what got them to completely monologue. And for the most part, that's just asking them questions about their business or asking them what their goals are for the next 3 to 6 months. Not like, hey, like, will you ever consider a contractor? Have you ever, like, do you want to go international? Stuff that's directly related to my product. Or like, have you worried about compliance? Are you worried about a contractor suing you? Like, those questions never really yield much, honestly. A lot of people think that they would scare people into getting a demo, but it doesn't. So I can focus on, like, if I ask someone a question, then I'm like 2 minutes later, haven't said anything. I'm like, okay, that was a good line. I should keep that line in mind and try that again next time. And I'll do that. I'll listen to my own calls once a week. I'll listen to other people's calls maybe once a week, and just try to find new ways to take that path.
And for setting up cold calls, see you're on a LinkedIn group, you're prospecting. Are you prospecting? You said you're mostly prospecting by, like, commenting under other people's posts.
Commenting is huge.
So commenting is huge for you. Interesting. So, like, comment, what's the flow like exactly? So you comment, they like it, or they say thanks, then what do you do?
So I just comment on viral posts from people in the HR space or on LinkedIn in general. And then people like my post, or they just view my profile. And then I go on LinkedIn Sales Navigator and I look at everyone who's viewed my profile. And if they look like a decent prospect, plug them into Zoom Info, take all that into Outreach and Salesforce, put them in a sequence and call them. That's like the flow that it runs with. You can use other sales intelligence tools, but that's just where I'm at right now.
So when you say sequence, can you just define what that means?
So I have a call only sequence that I typically use first. So I'll call them 1 day, 3 days later, I'll call them again, 5 days later, call them again, 3 days later, call them again. 6th day, 7th day, I think, is a double dial. So I'll call them the 6th and the 7th day. Not actual 6th and 7th day, but like 6th, 7th step in the sequence, which is like 10 to 12 days later. I'll double dial them. And then if they don't pick up within 6 to 8 calls, I'll put them in an email and call sequence. So they'll get emails from me and calls from me for the next 2 weeks. And then if they don't answer any of those, then they're gone. I got the wrong number, or they're just not picking up, or my numbers are spam. Who knows?
And for your email sequence, it's really challenging, I'm sure, to personalize an email sequence to every call lead that you bring in from commenting. So how do you manage that when you're putting it into your sequence? Because your sequence is several emails. I'm assuming you're trying to incorporate some value into each email. Do you look for a lead magnet in each email or every other email, or like, and also, but before even that, you said you call first and then you put them in the sequence. So when you're calling first, the first time you call them, what's the 20-second pitch that you say?
I say, hey, this is Justus. I'm just reaching out with my company Deal. Do you have 2 seconds or something like that? And they'll be like, yes, no, or let me go. And I'll be like, sweet, I'm just reaching out because I found your company on LinkedIn. I had a couple questions because I noticed you're based in Montreal, but US looks like maybe there's somebody in the Philippines. Is that accurate? I know LinkedIn spam a lot. And then if they trust me, they don't think I'm like a spammer or something like that. They'll be like, my business has been working internationally. We have a couple people all over the place, but we've been doing it for years. Oh, sweet. Why are you international? Why are you prioritizing that? Have you always liked working with people in other countries? Do you just really like remote work? Are you just super into tech? Because it's a little bit, or it's definitely a major trend now, but I still think I call people on a regular basis who are like, why would we hire people in another country? That doesn't make any sense. So that question still kind of bites where they're like, oh yeah, this is why I would do that. And then they monologue a little bit more. This is why the business is going this way. Oh, sweet. What are your goals going on? And they're like, we're trying to get funding. We're hoping to grow. We're stagnant right now. We're laying some people off. We're trying to downsize. We're trying to really get back to like product market fit. And then from there, I recommend Next Touch. So I'm like, well, if you want to get funding, we help you look really organized. And we also have a lot of major funders. We've gone through multiple different funding rounds and a lot of people are connected with us. So it'd be a good thing to tie your name to us. Or if you're trying to grow, we have a lot of talent partners because we're based in over 150 countries. So we can connect you to a lot of local talent. And then if you are downsizing and things like that, we can help you compliantly end a lot of contracts and also keep good relationships with local governments, even when you're transitioning out of country, just so a contractor can't come at you and say they were an employee the whole time and sue you for a bunch of lost wages that didn't actually exist. So that kind of determines my next step and my next follow-up. But
I kind of got that you lean in heavily on the Deal branding in the first 20 seconds to build trust and get them in. Answer your next question. What would you recommend for a new company with no branding to hook a customer for their sales tool, for an example, or whatever it is that they're selling?
Definitely. Yeah, before I was at Deal, I was at an insurance or a tech company in San Diego. They were selling to insurance agencies, and it was just something that made it easier and more user friendly to fill out a quote with an insurance advisor. And what I would lean into at that point when I would call these people was like, I'd be like, hey, is the business growing right now? Like, do you guys have funding, or are you shrinking? Or are you looking for, where's the business at basically? How can I extend curiosity as like someone, like I work in the insurance space, I sell insurance software, but like I'm curious, is this even something you would consider? Like, you guys leverage software, or are you guys more like an old school agency? Your plan, do you want to be tech focused, or do you want to be future minded, or are you still cost minded? That's all coming back to me what that script was. But all that was to do is like, hey, I've been in insurance, but like, I want to know, are you trying to grow, or are you trying to stay the where you're at? Because I only really want to be on this call if you're someone who wants to learn, someone who wants to grow. So that's where I would recommend to anyone if they're starting in sales is just be curious about your prospect and what their mindset is. Because even if they're a great fit, if they have a bad mindset, they're going to drag you along for 6 months and never buy your product and just waste your time and give you a bunch of objections that are going to waste your AE's time and your time and never lead you to any money. Maybe it'll help with certain things around the product, but you really just want people who are excited and who genuinely buy into your mindset and are more similar to you. So that's kind of the best advice I have outside of a specific platform, how to pitch. Just try to find people with a good mindset.
That makes a lot of sense. Mindset is so important when you're doing BD development.
100%.
Packing the calendar, it's a lot of tuning out the noise, listening to some good music, jamming out, and setting yourself in a great life to ask these questions and get rejected and push through and try to find that morsel of value that resonates with the other side, right?
100%. And it's healing for doing outbound, because like I get told no 80 times a day, or like 20 times a day, 80 times a week. Somebody tells me no, but all it takes is that one person with that great mindset who wants to connect you with other opportunities and wants to actually level up their business, or just interested in something outside of exactly what they're focused on, to like really give you a good impression and really lead somewhere that's like fruitful and like just that benefits everybody. Not every deal purchase is going to be a win-win-win, but I try to find those because I'm trying to have a good time doing outbound too. I'm trying to meet people on LinkedIn and calls and actually have relationships that I'll maintain throughout my career. So keeping those bridges and letting go of the ones that are going to waste your time, I think, is really important.
and setting up that authority voice is also pretty key. And notice you do that by, again, leaning in on Deel as a brand that you're leading with. Hey, I'm from Deel, but what do you recommend? You talked about looks for your insurance days. What did you do also to set up yourself as an authority figure on the call?
Just get the prospect to trust me a little bit more, I would say.
Yeah.
I think the best way to do that is in the form of a question. So it's like, if they say something like, we've always been working internationally, like it's something we've done for the company's whole life cycle. I'll just be like, oh, sweet. Have you always worked with a local lawyer to solve those problems for you? Or do you have an international lawyer and someone who's familiar with all sorts of different countries' laws? And a question like that is not super. I'm not talking about Deel at all. I'm not talking about myself at all. I'm just asking them, like, pretty obviously, like, well, if you're believing in someone for your entire business that is based in Minnesota and they're writing contracts for people in the Philippines, are they an international expert? And I feel like that asking those types of questions is the best way to get legitimacy, because a question like that just shows that you're talking about, and it also puts the ball back in their court where they're like, oh, I didn't even think about it like that. And so I think authority in those ways on the call versus, I'm from Deel, we're the #1 contractor management platform worldwide. Why don't you have us? Why do you have your friend? Well, now it's me or their friend. They're going to choose their friend every time. I don't even want to put that in their mind. So it's a bit of a rambling answer, but that's where I try to find authority, is just in the right questions.
Makes sense. If you're asking smart questions, people just automatically assume what you're talking about.
100%.
It makes sense. And it's sometimes the questions themselves are insightful, I find personally. Now, talk to me a bit about subject lines that you find are intriguing right now that hit for you right now in this current moment in time, the zeitgeist. Do you have things that you personalize to current events or to an economic change or talk to us? You know what I mean?
I don't personalize super heavy like that. If I am sending an email, it's to someone I just got off the phone with, or to someone who referred me to someone that referred me to someone else that I haven't called yet. That's like 80% of my emails. If I am cold emailing in those situations where someone never picked up the phone, my subject lines are all lowercase and are just like, just called you, calling you soon, or it's like international operations or highest G2 rating, just something super simple like that. And my emails are like maybe 3 to 4 page breaks with, like, I have one that has a GIF. All of them pretty much have GIFs. One of the GIFs is like Deel dashboard and just shows someone doing something random on the dashboard. So it's like, I'm just trying to get visual. I'm just trying to get them to look at it for like 2 seconds. I have a pretty unique name, and I feel like Deel is misspelled, so it kind of stands out. So if they just look at the email, eventually subconsciously something's going to trigger and they're going to come inbound, or maybe when they pick up the call, when I call them again, I'm like, this is Justus with Deel. They'll be like, oh, it's that guy with the memes that's been sending me emails. So yeah, I really like that. It's not super relevant memes. They're all Deel related memes. It's like the guy with the, like, which button do I press? And he's like, face is sweating, and it's like compliance, and like, or just like doing it myself or something like that. It's not hard to make these. It's video.io is where I made them all. But I find that you just want to have something different on the emails and something visual. I would look at a meme. I'm not going to read an email. I'm going to read 3 letters of the email and look at the video that's playing at the bottom of it. So that's where I'm at with those.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a great strategy. If it works for you, it works for you, right? Everybody has a different style. That's an interesting data point for me as well. Now, Peyton has another question for us. Do you find a high conversion rate on the email after a call when they didn't pick up?
I don't know, because email tracking is shot right now. It's like if there's a little pixel in the bottom of it that you used to know if they opened it or not. I think Google did something where that's turned off now. So our whole org just turned off email tracking. But I do think that if someone hangs up on me and I send them an email and then I call them again a few weeks later, they know who I am. They remember that they hung up on me and that I sent them an email afterwards, almost every single time. So I do think that email after a call is probably only going to make the difference if they picked up. If they didn't pick up, I think you're better off just leaving a generic voicemail, because those are just easier to track, and less people will call me back based on a voicemail. They'll maybe not leave me a voicemail, but they'll call me back. And so I'll know that number is active. But if they didn't pick up, I don't send an email usually, maybe a couple days later.
Speaking of tracking the voicemail and sales tools, what do you use to track your voicemails? Nooks, tell me all about it.
I was on Orem for most of this year. Now I'm on Nooks, which is way better. We were on Nooks before Orem, and Orem had this thing.
What is Nooks?
Nooks is Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
What is Nooks for the people that don't know?
Oh, it's like a AI power dialer. So it's a sales floor that people can plug in their CRM to. Outreach in this case is what we use. And it basically syncs everything from outreach into a power dialer where you can dial 4, 5, 6 people at a time. I'm normally dialing 2 or 3 at a time. And I find that to be the sweet spot. And then if they don't pick up, it automatically leaves them a voicemail when they don't pick up the call or something like that. And then people call me back from there. So I don't even have to leave the voicemail myself. It just automatically leaves it, which I think is super clutch because most people don't respond, but at least 2 or 3 times a week, I get a call back or a voicemail back or a text back or something like that because I leave my personal number in there.
Oh yeah, it's perfect. And Rubai has a question of, what do you use for lead enrichment and GTM tools?
I'm personally a really big fan of Ample Market. They are from Portugal and they have a great tool that has always gotten me pretty close to the right phone numbers and emails. They also have great ability to make sequences and stuff like that. Deel uses Zoom Info right now, but that changes all the time. So it just depends. But Zoom Info is great. That's the most expensive tool that you can find out there. So I think their data is probably the best writ large if you were to go look at tests and things like that. I've also used at other companies. So I can't remember what it's called right now, but the founder is like very public facing. Brandon, I think is his name, but he's very big in the sales intelligence space. Apollo was good too. That's not the one I'm thinking of the first time, but Apollo was also highly reviewed, and I really liked using that. They never really led me the wrong direction. All 3 of those, Zoom Info, Apollo, and Ample Market, have never done me wrong.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Justus. I feel like we covered a lot of ground here in terms of how to get leads, talk to customers, mindset, tools.
Yeah.
So you've been great help. I think the viewers are going to get a ton of value, and appreciate your time.
Of course, anytime. Yeah, throw my LinkedIn on there, my calendar link, whatever. If anybody has any questions, be happy to do something like this again. Excited to follow Thread too, or the other stuff that your group is building. I love this, dude. On people building small things, people building big things. Like, this gets me through the outbound day. These conversations are just so exciting.
Awesome, brother. Well, take care. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and happy holidays to everyone celebrating Halloween soon.
Good. Thanks, guys. Bye.